Developing right now on Morning News Now, new clashes in the Middle East, raising doubts about a peace deal between the U.S. and Iran. Now, President Trump pushing back against growing pressure to end the war and warning more attacks could come if negotiations fail.
Iran is very much intent. They want very much to make a deal. So far, they haven't gotten there. We're not satisfied with it, but we will be. We will be either that or we'll have to just finish the job.
We'll bring you the latest from the Middle East. Also this morning, taking precaution, the White House vowing to keep Ebola out of the U.S. amid a growing outbreak in Africa. The new set of guidelines that could impact travelers. Plus, calling foul the states of New York and New Jersey launching an investigation into FIFA's ticket practices just 2 weeks before the 2026 World Cup is set to kick off. Why officials say fans are being manipulated. And tough pill to swallow, they are a common prescription for fighting infections, but experts say antibiotics could be hurting your gut. We will tell you what you should know about the medications. I have heard that from my mom for quite some time.
A reminder, always be cautious of antibiotics. Only take them if you need them. Good to have you with us this morning. I'm Joe Fryer.
And I'm Savannah Sellers. Thanks so much for starting your Thursday morning with us. We are going to begin our show in the Middle East, where ceasefires are being disregarded on multiple fronts in the region by renewed strikes and escalating violence. This morning, Iran says it targeted a U.S. airbase in response to a U.S. attack on an Iranian port city near the Strait of Hormuz. A U.S. official told NBC News American forces downed Iranian drones and hit a ground control station. Iran did not say which airbase it targeted, but Kuwait, which hosts a major American base, said it was intercepting missiles and drones without saying where they were coming from.
Elsewhere in the region, Israel issued forced evacuation orders for large parts of southern Lebanon. It's declaring those areas combat zones as part of its war with Hezbollah. Thousands of Lebanese people were displaced in the major southern city of Tyre after Israel launched destructive strikes there. The World Health Organization says more than 600 people inside Lebanon have been killed in Israeli attacks since a ceasefire there came into effect in April. Amid the escalating violence, President Trump dismissed pressure to end the war with Iran as peace efforts continue to stall.
They're negotiating on fumes. But we'll see what happens. Maybe we have to go back and finish it. Maybe we don't. But right now, I think it looks like they want to just make a deal. I don't think they have a choice.
NBC News international correspondent Matt Bradley joins us now from Tel Aviv with the very latest. So, Matt, in the space of a week, we've gone from being close to a peace deal to seeing more and more of these flare-ups. Tell us about this latest exchange of strikes between the U.S. and Iran and just where it leaves any possible peace talks.
Yeah, I mean, it's enough to leave you dizzy, isn't it? And all of this whiplash going back and forth, it's certainly not going to be reassuring to those allies and trading partners throughout the world who are really hoping to see the Strait of Hormuz cleared and international shipping be open to everyone. Now, these peace talks appear to have lurched back and forth primarily because, it looks as though neither side has really been able to bridge the main disagreements that are left, and that is the fate of Iran's nuclear program. The United States insists that Iran should never have access to nuclear weapons, even though Iran has long ago said that they're not trying to get nuclear weapons, and also the fate of the Strait of Hormuz. It looks as though the Iranians still want to see some level of control over the Strait of Hormuz beyond what they enjoyed before the war began with that joint American and Israeli offensive against Iran. So what we're seeing now is Iran trying to actually take more power in the Strait of Hormuz than they had as a result of this fight. And we're also seeing that there's major complications in terms of what the Iranians feel they're entitled to. They say lifting of U.S. sanctions and some relief money, basically reparations for the damage that they endured at the hands of American and Israeli airstrikes. For the Americans, most of these items are non-starters. But as President Trump has said, he thinks that the Iranians are in a corner. The Iranians clearly, and have for the past several weeks, believe that they have the upper hand.
So, Matt, the president has talked a lot about the Strait of Hormuz and the prospects of a deal, especially during this cabinet meeting he held yesterday. But there was a moment where he also appeared to threaten a U.S. ally, Oman. What did he say? What's that all about?
No, he said that they were going to bomb Oman, and there was a lot of confusion, especially online, that maybe he meant Iran, because that was the kind of bellicose language that he normally uses for American enemies like Iran, not an ally like Oman across the Strait of Hormuz from Iran. Part of the Strait of Hormuz comes under Omani waters, and it was Oman that in the past couple of weeks the Iranians had said we're negotiating for a more permanent sort of partnership in governing over the Strait of Hormuz. As I mentioned just a moment ago, the Iranians seem to be vying for more political and commercial power over the Strait, which traffics in about 20% of the world's oil. So it is hard for me to explain why the president would go from seeing Oman as a major partner, which it has been in negotiations throughout the Middle East, particularly with the Iranians for more than a generation now, to go from that to threatening to actually attack this country that has been a strong American partner. The only thing I can guess is that it has to do with the fact that the Omanis had been trying to make a deal, according to the Iranians, with the Iranians for the future governance of the Strait of Hormuz, a deal that, according to reporting, kind of didn't include anything about the United States.
Matt, on top of all of this, as we mentioned, the situation in Lebanon is growing more and more dire. Over the past few days, we've seen some of the most intense Israeli bombardments after the IDF expanded the invasion there. What's the latest on the ground?
Yeah, I mean, what we're seeing is, as you mentioned in your introduction, the Israelis demanding that more evacuations occur in that area, that lip right over Israel's border with Lebanon and a little bit beyond it. But here in Israel, this is turning into a major political scandal for the Prime Minister, Benjamin Netanyahu. There are so many voices within the military, within rival politicians, demanding that Benjamin Netanyahu restart the war against Hezbollah in Lebanon. He has said that they're expanding operations. They have been operating at an extremely high level for the past several weeks, even despite that ceasefire, which, according to almost every side involved, that ceasefire exists almost entirely in name only. But here in Israel, the Prime Minister is getting a lot of grief for what is being seen by Israelis as the United States handcuffing Israeli operations in Lebanon, meaning that Israel is trying to prosecute a full-on, all-singing, all-dancing war against Hezbollah, while at the same time trying to turn around and tell Washington that they are observing a ceasefire. So essentially, they're doing neither. They're neither observing the ceasefire nor going after Hezbollah as strongly as they want to. And it is the residents of northern Israel, those civilians who have been facing repeated attacks by highly effective Hezbollah wire-guided munitions and drones, who are paying the full price. This is one of the main issues that Benjamin Netanyahu is going to be facing as he comes up to re-election before the end of October. Why he isn't able to tell Washington and President Trump that he wants to break with the ceasefire in the Persian Gulf and govern his war with Hezbollah separately outside of the negotiations between Iran and the U.S. and Israel on the other side. That is becoming a critical question politically here in Israel.
All right, Matt Bradley in Tel Aviv. Matt, thank you so much.
We've got some breaking news this morning out of Washington. Earlier today, a federal judge declined to block President Trump's executive order tightening rules on mail-in voting.
The order, signed in March, directed his administration to compile a list of U.S. citizens who are eligible to vote in each state. The move is seen as a major loss for Democrats who argue the order could disenfranchise millions of voters across the country.
NBC News legal affairs reporter Gary Grumbach joins us now with more on this and some other headlines from Washington for us. Gary, good morning. First, just walk us through what this decision could mean for voters.
So this was an executive order that would have essentially created a federal list of voters that the United States Postal Service would have then only been allowed to send ballots to those federally created list of voters. Of course, elections in this country are run by the states, not by the federal government. So Democrats, including the Democratic National Committee, sued over this executive order. And just this morning, a federal judge here in Washington saying that this executive order can stand for now because Democrats right now are not actually harmed by anything that this executive order does, because they haven't actually created this federal list yet. Now, we have seen across the country separate lawsuits of the federal government trying to get voter rolls lists from states around the country. There have been at least 8 judges that have denied those lawsuits from the federal government already. So clearly some trouble from the Trump administration at some point as it relates to elections. But Judge Carl Nichols here in D.C. essentially saying, come back when there's real harm to Democrats.
Gary, let's go back in time a little bit. Former First Lady Jill Biden sat down with CBS News for an an interview. Some of what she is saying about the 2024 campaign, specifically her husband's debate performance, is just sending shockwaves through Washington. What can you tell us?
Yeah, former First Lady Jill Biden finally coming clean about what she actually thought about that 2024 debate performance that was widely panned after President Joe Biden appeared to be halting, appeared to be stumbling, appeared to not remember certain answers to questions there. In an interview ahead of a release of a memoir that she is writing about the 2024 election and her experience in the White House in the years prior, she told CBS that she thought her husband was having a medical emergency. Watch this.
I was frightened because I had never, ever seen Joe like that before or since. As I watched it, I thought, oh my God, he's having a stroke. And it scared me to death.
Now, candidly, this is a little bit of cleanup here on the former First Lady's part because of the fact that in the hours and days after that debate, all of his advisors, all of his family members were saying there's nothing to see here. He's doing just fine. Of course, there were a lot of concerns about the man's age and about the man's well-being after that point. And that debate performance is what eventually led him to drop out of the race for re-election. Guys.
Gary, is one more story we got out of Washington. It really sounds like something out of a movie. This is some reporting that you did for NBCNews.com. It has to do with the CIA agent, millions of dollars he's accused of here of stashing in gold bars in his home. And that's actually not all. What's going on here?
This is a wild story, guys. This was a senior CIA officer, a senior executive level individual who asked for close to $40 million in gold bars. That's about 303 gold bars, millions of dollars in foreign currency from the government for what he said was work purposes. He got all of that. They gave it to him, and then he brought much of it home to his house in Virginia. When he was arrested last week, he also had 35 luxury watches on him, many of them were Rolex in brand. The CIA says they did an internal investigation alongside the FBI and then went and arrested this individual. But the story, as you said, does not actually stop there. He has lied for 2 decades about his educational background, saying he was a graduate of Clemson, saying he had a master's degree. Both schools saying he had none of that. They have no record of him. He even said he was a pilot in the Navy. The FAA says he doesn't even have a license to be a pilot at all. So this man was creating an absolute persona for himself that did not exist, but he was still a government employee for almost 20 years, guys.
Wow. All right. That is something. Does sound like a movie. Gary, thank you.
The governor of Washington state says the blast at a packaging plant there might be one of the deadliest industrial accidents in state history. Officials say the search for missing workers is no longer a rescue mission, but a recovery effort. They do not expect to find any survivors. NBC News national correspondent Morgan Chesky has the latest.
The stunning new video shows the devastation inside a Washington plant moments after the deadly rupture of a massive chemical tank.
3401 Industrial Way at Nippon for a hazmat burn.
A toxic surge inside a packaging plant, leaving trucks flipped over or crushed, seen here in video obtained by an independent journalist. The leaking tank partially collapsed. Authorities confirm at least 2 people are dead and 9 still missing from the implosion early Tuesday.
This was a shift change time. They were operating and they were in their workspaces when this blast occurred.
The cause still unknown.
We do not know where all 9 are. We have searched the area that is searchable.
The tank holding nearly 1 million gallons of white liquor, a sodium-based chemical used in paper manufacturing that can cause severe burns if not properly handled, enough to fill more than an Olympic-sized swimming pool.
Authorities have now sealed off the entire plant as recovery efforts intensify. That leaked chemical so powerful, even firefighters reported damage to their own gear.
The steam cloud was so big, covered everything. Couldn't see through it.
Eli Bernal was working at the plant. Today, he and his sister remembering their father, 52-year-old Gilbert Bernal, who they say showed up for his shift just minutes before the implosion.
He was just a very genuine person, and just within minutes of you talking with him, you felt like you'd known him for a lifetime.
Hundreds gathered to pray and support the families, now left longing for answers.
I know they can't give us all the details, but I still want to know what happened to my dad.
Our thanks to Morgan Chesky for that report. Federal investigators are now on the scene. They're working to figure out what caused the implosion and whether it could have been prevented. The company that owns the plant released a statement expressing its condolences to the families who lost loved ones.
With just 2 weeks to go until the start of the 2026 FIFA World Cup, an investigation is underway into soaring ticket prices and practices by soccer's governing body.
The attorneys general for New York and New Jersey have issued subpoenas to FIFA. They want the organization to disclose how it arrived at what the New Jersey AG called impossibly high prices for tickets to the tournament. Now, though, with those subpoenas, they're looking for specific details about the 8 matches that are going to be held at MetLife Stadium in New Jersey, just minutes from New York City. That includes the World Cup final taking place on July 19th.
Even NBC News legal analyst Misty Maris joining us here on set for more on these legal troubles for FIFA. Misty, good morning. Thanks for joining us. There's been a lot of talk about just how expensive these tickets are. A lot of it also, though, resale. Somebody gets their hands on them and then jacks that price way up. But there's also claims that maybe like the location of where seats are in the stadium was a little misleading. So what are the real red flags legally? What is it that New York and New Jersey are alleging here?
So this investigation is looking into 2 core issues. First, whether or not there was a bait and switch, that people were buying tickets to the World Cup. They were shown certain zones on a seating map. They purchased tickets in those zones. Then they receive the tickets, and they are wildly different. And so the allegation is that this was deceptive. And the other piece of this is that statements made by FIFA and their ticketing practices of dynamic pricing, meaning the price changed based on availability, based on demand, was actually driven up with this a false scarcity, so that there was this air of, you got to get these tickets now, you got to get these tickets now, only for the price to be driven up over the course of the past, months that we've been talking about these escalating prices.
So FIFA's president was asked about this last October, about the high prices. He cited that there's limited supply, there's this worldwide demand. I know I have, full disclosure, tickets to one of the matches.
Wow, that's amazing.
And it's expensive, yeah.
It's really expensive.
It's really expensive.
How did you get
so
those?
for those, just persistence, I guess.
And do you have an extra?
Right,
Yeah.
Not right now. Maybe I'll resell them. But people might be wondering, I mean, we got 2 weeks to go. What could possibly happen here? And could it mean people get money back or something? What are the possibilities?
Yeah, so this is an investigation, and basically it would mean a potential action, depending on what comes from that, of a consumer frauds type case under deceptive business practices. This could be New York, this could be New Jersey. Remember, California had also sent a letter to FIFA asking for some of the same information. So you could have multiple AGs pursuing legal action against FIFA. And if it were to be successful, so this is a long way down the road, you could have restitution, you could have money paid back to customers, you could have fines. The other aspect is that there could be an injunction to change the practices. We're a little late for that now because we're, right at the threshold of these matches actually taking place.
There's one other legal trouble threat here for FIFA. This is this nonprofit group demanding that it lift its ban on a pre-revolutionary Iranian flag. Explain what's going on with this one.
Yeah, but what they're saying is that there's a ban to fly this flag at the FIFA tournaments, and that is actually violative of free speech. Now, what FIFA has said is that they have a code of conduct of neutrality, no political speech, and it's important to remember FIFA, at least as far as the United States is concerned, it's a private organization. So the First Amendment only applies to the government suppressing speech, not to private organizations, which can regulate certain types of things based on the fact that they are a private entity. So the legal question would be, how closely connected are they to states when it comes to using public stadiums, public areas, and whether or not there's an argument that it is actually state action. But the private entity itself, you don't have a First Amendment right there. You don't have that First Amendment argument, but there is a potential legal issue when it comes to that involvement of the state.
Interesting. Misty Maris, thank you so much.
Thank you.
The U.S. Coast Guard says it's going to reopen the search for Lynette Hooker. She's the woman who's been missing since April, when her husband says she fell overboard in the Bahamas. The U.S. official familiar with the matter tells NBC News the Coast Guard is now reopening its search because Brian Hooker's story doesn't add up. They say new GPS evidence appears to contradict what he told investigators about where he was the night his wife went missing. We reached out to Brian Hooker's legal team for comment, but have yet to hear back. Morning News Now weather and a look at the forecast as the weekend approaches.
Al Roker joins us again today with the details. Hey, Al.
Hey, Hey, good morning, guys. Well, we're looking at showers and thunderstorms now starting to pop up, especially from the Gulf all the way up into the Central Plains, and that's going to be the pattern for today. This front will be dropping down, locally heavy showers stretching from Kansas to Florida. Isolated flood risk with some of these heavy downpours. Then tomorrow, the focus is really going to be down into the southeast with these showers and thunderstorms, especially down in and around Florida tomorrow. We're talking from Naples all the way up to Wichita, Kansas, anywhere from 1 to maybe 3 inches of rain. And temperature-wise, we've got what we call kind of this omega block. Low pressure both ends of the country, high pressure in between, and where that upward slope of the jet stream goes, we are looking for record highs with that kind of Greek omega letter right there. Fargo, 94 degrees. You betcha, Marge. 93 in Billings. Seattle going to be 77 degrees. Buffalo, a little chillier. We're looking out west where temperatures are going to stay a little on the cool side. And then tomorrow, New York City, not too bad. Temperatures pretty solid where they are. Chicago's going to see temperatures in the low 80s, mid 80s in Bismarck. And then as we head into next week, temperatures cool off a bit. By Saturday, Boston, you're only at 55. Cleveland, you warm up by Monday to 76. Look at low 80s into St. Louis. And as we move into next week, much cooler weather as we stretch mid-Atlantic into the southwest, but warmer than average from the west coast all the way up into the plains. That's your latest weather. Back to you.
All right, Al, thanks so much. Much more to come here on Morning News Now. Later this hour, an incredible discovery caught on camera. 5 men trapped in a flooded cave for days, found alive. Hear from one of the divers who found them, plus the latest on the search for 2 people still missing.
Up first, though, after the break, the White House vowing to keep Ebola out of the U.S., the strict new precautions for screening and quarantine next.
Welcome back. The Trump administration is ramping up its response to the growing Ebola outbreak in Africa, vowing to prevent the spread of the disease here in the U.S. Starting today, there will be increased screenings at several airports for travelers coming into the country from parts of Central Africa. Comes as the White House is also preparing a quarantine facility in Kenya where Americans exposed to the disease will be forced to isolate. NBC News senior national correspondent Stephanie Gosk has the latest details.
As Ebola cases in Africa surge, the Trump administration vowing it won't spread here.
We cannot and will not allow any cases of Ebola to enter the United States.
The White House announcing it will set up a state-of-the-art facility in Kenya to treat Americans infected by the deadly virus in Africa, offering them life-saving care as quickly as possible. The CDC also taking steps to stop the spread, making an urgent call to its staff. Volunteers are needed at major U.S. airports to screen travelers. Only Washington Dulles, Atlanta's Hartsfield-Jackson, George Bush Airport in Houston, and now New York's JFK will accept U.S. citizens traveling from the Democratic Republic of Congo, South Sudan, and Uganda. At the airport, they'll be taken to a designated screening area where they will complete a brief questionnaire and have their temperature checked, according to the CDC. Those without symptoms are free to leave, but are asked to immediately contact public health officials if symptoms develop. Dr. Ashish Jha is a public health expert.
That kind of screening is a really important part of making sure that we don't get people coming in with Ebola who we're not aware of.
Non-U.S. citizens, including green card holders who have traveled to the affected region in the last 3 weeks, are temporarily banned from coming into the U.S. In Africa, there are close to 1,000 verified cases and more than 200 people dead. But there are fears the Ebola outbreak is far bigger, and it is spreading fast.
If someone arrives to the screening center and there is a reasonable suspicion they have Ebola, they will be transported safely to a designated hospital where they will be isolated, tested for Ebola, and if they have it, that's when the treatment will begin. Back to you.
All right, Steph, thank you. Well, for more on how the U.S. is handling this outbreak, let's bring in Lawrence Gostin. He's a distinguished university professor at Georgetown and director of the World Health Organization Collaborating Center on National and Global Health Law. Lawrence, good morning. Thanks for being here. Let's start just with your reaction to this new screening protocol here in the United States at airports. Do you think this is an effective way to prevent Ebola from coming into the country?
Well, in short, no. I mean, during the West Africa Ebola outbreak, we weren't able to pick up any cases at our airports. I think it's the American public does support these kinds of screenings. I do too. I think if somebody comes into the United States, they should be screened. So that doesn't trouble me, but I don't think it's going to solve the problem at all. It never has. We have to deal with this right at the source, which is in Central Africa.
So let's talk through a little bit about what that does mean within these African countries. One official said that there's this facility in Kenya that it's meant to get Americans faster access to care and avoid like a long medical evacuation flight. But you have said the decision to quarantine Americans over there is unprecedented. What are your biggest concerns for that kind of containment strategy?
Well, in every previous Ebola outbreak, there's been 17 in the Democratic Republic of Congo. Democratic and Republican presidents have always brought sick Americans back to be treated in specialized facilities in the United States, in Atlanta, Nebraska, and other places which have really high quality medical care. And that's saved a number of lives. I worry that this is going to possibly even cost American lives, because it's impossible to stand up a facility in a foreign country like Kenya and expect it to have the kind of high quality, world-class quality care that you need. Ebola is a very complex and it's a lethal disease. Unless we get the care to Americans that they need, we could have severe consequences. That has to be on U.S. soil.
What have we learned from previous outbreaks about how to effectively handle an outbreak like this that we're seeing right now?
Yeah, well, travel restrictions have never worked. I think airport screening is fine. It's prudent, but we don't usually pick up cases. The main thing is to surge resources into the area. And I worry about that. First, the United States is really not very visible in these three countries where the outbreak is taking place. We don't have USAID. CDC is remarkably weakened. And so I think that the outbreak control at source is really suffering because of the United States' absence.
What else do you want people to know about staying safe in the middle of an outbreak, especially if you have any travel plans here?
Yeah, thanks for asking. I mean, for the general public, this really isn't a risk. Ebola requires really exposure to, bodily fluids. And so if you're just going about your everyday life, it should be fine. Traveling in the United States, traveling to Europe and other places around the world, I don't think there's going to be any kind of a significant risk to you. Of course, if you're traveling to the region, then it's very important to seek advice from your doctor and also from the State Department and U.S. CDC.
All right, Lawrence Gostin, thank you so much for joining us for this conversation.
Thank you for having me, Savannah.
Well, let's stay with international news and some good news. We're about to show you the incredible moment. 5 men trapped in a flooded cave in Laos were found after being there for more than a week. NBC News international correspondent Janice Mackey-Frayer spoke with one of the rescue divers about this dramatic moment and also the ongoing effort to find the 2 people still missing.
Deep inside a flooded cave in Laos, through muddy water and narrow tunnels, they found them. 5 men huddled on a ledge, cold, famished, but unhurt. Thank you, said one of the survivors in dramatic video shot by divers. Outside, volunteers were elated, yet now the real work begins to find 2 others still missing and get all of them out. We spoke with one of the rescuers who said the men cried when they saw him.
They really cried. I'm there and shouting, grab hand.
The group went into the cave last week to search for gold when heavy rain triggered a flash flood that blocked the entrance with mud and debris. The rescue team from Thailand was involved in the 2018 operation that got 12 boys and their soccer coach out of a cave after 18 days. This rescue will be no less difficult. The survivors, nearly 1,000 feet inside tunnels that are less than 2 feet wide at parts, complicated by potentially contaminated air and anxiety. For now, divers are getting supplies to the group to help build up their strength to soon make the daring journey out. Janice Mackey-Freyer, NBC News, Beijing.
Oh, just incredible video there. All right, coming up on Morning News Now, a teenage girl and her family fighting for life-changing care.
Apparently they don't care for my safety. All I think is that they were thinking about themselves or their buddy.
When we return, why that family says they were denied coverage and what happened when our team stepped in. We'll be right back. We are back with our series, The Cost of Denial, where we examine the challenges Americans face in dealing with insurance coverage. Well, this morning we're taking a look at one teen's agonizing battle with daily seizures. Her doctors recommended a procedure they say could help, but her family's insurance refused to cover it. That is, until days after our team started asking questions. NBC News correspondent Maggie Vespa has the details.
Camera C.
Minutes into our interview with Brandy Sharp about her daughter Cambry's seizures, we had to pause.
If he's coming down.
Do you need to go? You can go. Dad Brian brings 13-year-old Cambry in the midst of a seizure to the couch, her eyes glazed over, fists clenched. Norris, the alert dog, by Cambry's side.
Good boy.
What are those 15 to 20 minutes like as a mom?
They're hard. It's like watching the Cambry light go out. It's okay. I got you.
It's a scene this rural Illinois family wants to share. Cambry, who has a severe form of epilepsy, goes through as many as 4 seizures a day.
What's going on?
She had a second seizure just a few hours later.
I worry that every minute that she has a seizure is damage to her brain. These are the medications that she has used.
1, 2, 3.
Having
4,
exhausted
5, 6,
the list of possible medications,
28.
Brandy says their doctors recommended neuromodulation with deep brain stimulation, in which surgeons place probes deep in the brain that send electrical stimulation to help prevent seizures. NBC News spoke with pediatric neurosurgeons not involved with Cambry's care who agree the procedure can be effective.
I know that there are other children who have it.
Had your doctors told you that it had been done in other children and covered in other children?
Yes.
Finally.
But for Cambry, insurance said no. Anthem Blue Cross Blue Shield denied coverage days before the surgery was scheduled to take place.
They said it was not FDA approved for children under the age of 18. Yep, VR.
And that's true. But the doctors treating Cambry tell us the procedure usually is approved by insurance for minors who qualify. To Cambry, it felt personal.
Apparently they don't care for my safety.
Do you think that they were thinking about you when they said no?
All I think is that they were thinking about themselves or their buddy.
NBC News reached out to Anthem Blue Cross Blue Shield asking about Cambry's case. 3 days later, the insurer reversed its decision. Anthem Blue Cross telling NBC News it previously had not received all of Cambry's medical information, and once we received that information demonstrating that her treatment options are limited, we approved the deep brain stimulation treatment.
Go ahead, it's in the middle there.
We showed the statement to Brandy. She was skeptical.
They have been her insurance provider since she was maybe a year old. They have all of her records.
Why do you think they reversed their decision?
I believe that they reversed that decision because NBC News reached out to them and they knew that there was going to be coverage about the fact that they were denying care for a child.
You think it's that simple?
I do. Can I have a hug?
Cambry's surgery is now scheduled for next month.
I told her that no matter what it takes, I'll always fight for her to get the care she needs.
And an update from that insurance company, Anthem Blue Cross Blue Shield, now telling NBC News they're actually changing their policy to cover the surgery Cambry was seeking for pediatric and adolescent patients who meet other clinical criteria, potentially saving future families from the hardships the Sharps have endured. Back to you.
All right, Maggie, incredible reporting. Thank you so much. Well, let's stay with health news. For many people taking prescribed antibiotics, it could come with those side effects, right? Upset stomach, maybe other digestive problems. Well, this morning we're breaking down why that happens and how to safely manage that. Dr. Trisha Pasricha is a gastroenterologist at Beth Israel Deaconess Medical Center. She's also author of the book, You've Been Pooping All Wrong, How to Make Your Bowel Movements a Joy. And she just published an article on this in the Washington Post. She's with us now. Good morning, doctor. Great to have you with us. So first off, why is it that antibiotics wreak havoc on our stomach?
Great to be back, Savannah. So antibiotics do a terrific job of fighting the bacteria that make us sick. But the concern has been that they may also catch some of the healthy bacteria in our gut and their crossfire. Remember, in our microbiomes, we have these trillions of bacteria living among us. They're fermenting fiber. They're supporting our immune system. Those can be impacted by antibiotics. And then some antibiotics have effects on the gut that have absolutely nothing to do with the microbiome. And I think people don't often appreciate that. Some antibiotics like azithromycin, which is really common in Z-Paks that people take for community-acquired pneumonia, they actually bind to receptors in the gut wall called motilin receptors, and that causes contractions. And that's why many people feel stomach cramps, nausea, belly aches when they take antibiotics.
Doctor, are all antibiotics created equal here, or are there some that are more likely to give you these side effects?
Well, we got some clues from a new study that came out in Nature Medicine last month that looked at about 15,000 people, and it found that certain antibiotics like clindamycin and fluoroquinolones, they caused pretty profound microbiome changes that were still detectable even years after taking a single course. But then there were other antibiotics like amoxicillin, azithromycin, cephalosporins, which are really commonly prescribed here in the U.S. They had far more modest effect. So for me, the kind of take home is not that my microbiome is doomed if I take antibiotics, but really that all antibiotics are not the same and all microbiomes are not the same. We all come to this with a different baseline microbiome. If you're immunocompromised, you're older, you may be at a greater risk of disruption. So it's always worth asking your doctor, is this the narrowest antibiotic option that's actually going to work for me?
I know when I have been prescribed antibiotics for one thing or another, oftentimes the doctor will say, also go get a probiotic, which you can just get at your pharmacy, and take that alongside it during this time. Does that help? Is there anything else that helps?
Well, here's the thing. When you're on antibiotic, you think that grabbing a probiotic would protect the microbiome. That's what we want to do, and it makes intuitive sense, except several studies have found that probiotic supplements do very little when you're on antibiotics. And in fact, they might even do the opposite of what you want. There was a big study in Cell in 2018 that found that people who took probiotics after antibiotics actually took longer to recover their microbiome. And there may be some exceptions. Again, if you're immunocompromised, at a higher risk for something called C. difficile infection, it's worth talking to your doctor. But for most people, save your money. I tell people to focus on 3 things instead. 1, eat fiber. Fiber is so important because that is what feeds your microbes, and they produce compounds that can help heal the gut lining and also have anti-inflammatory benefits in the rest of your body. But it's not just fiber. It's actually eating a variety of fibers. Everyone thinks fiber is just one thing. It's all the same. Feeding your microbes different fiber types actually supports different species of microbiomes, and a diverse microbiome is a hallmark of health. And then lastly, probiotic foods are incredibly important. And I'm talking about fermented foods, things like Greek yogurt, kimchi. I quote this trial that came out of Stanford a few years ago at almost every dinner party I attend. And it found that people who ate fermented foods every day, they not only had a more beneficial bacteria in their microbiome, but they also had decreases in 19 different inflammatory proteins in their blood.
Wow, that is super interesting. All right, Dr. Trisha Pasricha, thanks again for being with us. Good to see you. Coming up, a Google engineer accused of using insider information to win more than $1 million on a popular prediction platform. There are criminal charges against him. That's coming up in your Money Minute. And he's in his bag. We'll introduce you to the designer behind a handbag being called the New Birkin of Manhattan. It's getting a lot of hype online. Morning News Now. We'll be right back. Back now, some money news. Lululemon is calling a truce with its founder. The company's been in a feud with him for years. NBC News business and economy reporter Emily Lorsch has our Money Minute and will explain. Hey, Emily, good morning.
Hey, Savannah, good morning. That's right. Lululemon and its founder, Chip Wilson, are ending their battle, at least for now. According to Lululemon, the agreement involves adding 2 new board members and a donation to the area in Vancouver where the company was created. Wilson owns nearly 9% of the activewear maker and has been criticizing the company for years. As part of this agreement, Wilson will hold off on any additional negative commentary for a year and a half. Lululemon reports quarterly earnings next week, and its new CEO is set to step in later this year. Over at Google, a software engineer living in Switzerland is facing charges for allegedly using insider information to score more than $1 million on the prediction market platform Polymarket. Federal prosecutors allege he bet that Google's 2025 most searched person would be the singer David, who's currently facing murder charges. Google tells NBC News it's working with police, saying this is a, quote, serious breach of its policies. And Polymarket says it's also cooperating and dedicated to, quote, maintaining accurate, fair, and transparent markets. Meanwhile, Travis Kelce is coming out full force for his hometown teams. First this past weekend, that viral moment of him chugging a beer while sitting courtside with his fiancée Taylor Swift as the Cleveland Cavaliers face off against the New York Knicks. And now he's diving into baseball in a major way, purchasing a minority stake in the Cleveland Guardians. The football star telling ESPN how much he loves Cleveland, saying he's, quote, just a kid from the Heights living the dream. Did you see that viral chugging moment?
Oh, yeah, of course I did. And Taylor's just smiling, looking on.
It was so clean, too. Like, his mouth wasn't even touching the beer.
That was insanely impressive. I was like, I don't,
couldn't believe it.
Yeah, but good for him. Very exciting. Thanks, Emily. Well, there's a new bag in town. It's being called the New Birkin of Manhattan. It was created by a Haitian immigrant and is now going totally viral and setting trends here in New York. NBC News daily anchor Zincle Asamoah explains.
Customers are lining the block.
We are on the manhunt that half of New York's fashion girlies are on right now.
And facing a wait list over 67,000 people long.
The whole website sold out in like less than 5 minutes.
All for one bag.
They just post later if you're looking to add a Pierre Laborde bag to your collection.
When I saw this green cowhide, I was gagged.
The man behind the cowhide clutch craze is Francis Pierre Laborde. Every bag bearing his namesake is crafted by hand in Harlem, New York.
So this is where you make the bags?
Of course, yeah.
About how many each month?
We're trying to make like 350, 400 and push it to 450 because of the demand.
In this
it's
room?
so high in here though, in my studio.
Laborde came to the United States more than 40 years ago. He didn't speak any English, but he did have a dream.
Did your family support your dreams before you came to the States?
Actually, yeah, my mother. My father was not. And because in Haiti, it's just like...
it was gendered.
Yeah, it's gendered.
Laborde says 12 years ago, he made his very first bag.
After I created it, I was like, okay, I feel like I have a fill full of handbags. This is something I can do. So I went back and took classes.
The designer selling at New York's Grand Bazaar, a fashion and vintage hotspot. Then one customer posted a few now viral videos.
Last week, I fell in love with a local NYC designer, and when I shared a video about it, it went totally viral.
I was like shaking, I was like kind of scared. And I was like, I don't understand what happened. So she sent me a message, she's like, I posted one of the bags on TikTok. It went viral.
Suddenly, the board was swarmed with customers and interest.
Everybody who wants a bag, eventually they will get a bag, but it's not like going to be that quick. Like you order something like the next day.
It's not instant.
His works have now made their way to runways and sparked an all-out internet obsession. But the craftsman remains committed to authenticity and privacy.
You could outsource, you could go to stores, but you haven't done that. Why?
I wanted to create something different, right? Everybody has the same bags, same color. And I feel like people need to put some colors in their life.
I think about the young Pierre you described, who was discouraged from sewing. What would you say to yourself now?
Don't ever give up. So, I mean, if you have a dream, just like keep going.
All right, thanks to Zincle for that story. Also, the cost, of course, you're probably wondering, the smaller, medium bags, they go between $200 and $700, and bigger ones around $1,000. Good Good morning. Thanks for kicking off your Thursday with us. I'm Savannah Sellers.
I'm Joe Fryer. Right now on Morning News Now, trading blows. Tit-for-tat military strikes levied by both Iran and the U.S. now throwing that already fragile ceasefire further into question. President Trump, meanwhile, painting a hazy picture of the path forward. He's suggesting peace talks that he previously called promising could still collapse. It's all breeding more uncertainty on Main Street and Wall Street ahead of November's pivotal midterm elections. But is the commander-in-chief really worried about GOP votes? We've got the latest in a moment. Also this morning, a bombshell admission from former First Lady Jill Biden. A new tell-all interview shining a light on then-President Biden's final weeks on the campaign trail back in 2024. The stunning debate stage moments that she says had her terrified for her husband's health. Plus, stop the spread inside the Trump administration's sweeping new effort to catch Ebola before it enters the country. The critical airport screening operation hitting a handful of major hubs today, awaiting travelers from African regions devastated by the virus. And burn notice. Later in the hour, we're going to dig into the concerning rise of so-called tanfluencers online, why many Gen Zers are playing with fire when it comes to catching some rays. Gotta use that sunscreen. So incredibly important.
Don't get in those beds.
There you go. Yeah, no, definitely not. All right. Let's begin this hour in the Middle East, where a new round of attacks between the U.S. and Iran is raising more doubts over a peace deal and sending oil prices higher again.
This morning, Iran says it targeted a U.S. airbase in response to a U.S. attack on an Iranian port city near the Strait of Hormuz. A U.S. official told NBC News American forces downed Iranian drones and hit a ground control station. Now, Iran did not say which airbase it targeted, but Kuwait, which does host a major American base, said it was intercepting missiles and drones. NBC News chief foreign correspondent Richard Engel has the latest from Jerusalem. Richard?
This really is a roller coaster. One day we're talking about progress in peace negotiations. Today, a setback as Iran and the U.S. trade fire after Iran claims American ships tried to force their way through the Strait of Hormuz. The U.S. and Iran once again exchanged fire overnight, sending oil prices rising and casting new doubts on peace talks. The latest exchange started around the Strait of Hormuz, which Iran closed after the U.S. and Israel attacked the country 3 months ago. Iranian media report Iranian forces first fired warning shots as American ships tried to pass through Hormuz without authorization, and that the U.S. military responded with strikes. An American official described the strikes as self-defense, shooting down multiple Iranian drones threatening American forces and commercial shipping, and attacking a control station inside Iran. Iran's Revolutionary Guard says it then responded by launching missiles at an American base in the Gulf. State media releasing footage it says shows that attack, although there's no way to verify when or where the footage was taken. Kuwait, where many American troops are based, said its air defenses engaged incoming missiles and drones. There were no reports of casualties. President Trump, speaking at the White House before the overnight clashes, the second in 3 days, threatened military escalation if diplomacy continues to fail.
They want very much to make a deal. So far, they haven't gotten there. We're not satisfied with it, but we will be. We will be either that or we'll have to just finish the job.
He also repeated his demand that peace negotiators in the Gulf and beyond, who have seen their countries attacked and their economies shaken, owe it to Trump to sign the Abraham Accords, improving relations with Israel. Many Middle Eastern and Muslim-majority nations oppose the agreement.
I would like to have them join the Abraham Accords. It'll be historic if they do it. And I think they owe that to us, to be honest.
U.S. Central Command confirmed a short while ago that Iran fired a ballistic missile at Kuwait. It was shot down. CENTCOM called it an egregious violation of the ceasefire.
As the war continues, President Trump is brushing off concerns that a prolonged conflict will hurt Republicans in the midterm elections this November. During his cabinet meeting yesterday, President Trump said outright that he does not care about the elections, even as polling shows the war is increasingly unpopular among Americans. NBC News Chief White House correspondent Garrett Hake has the very latest. Garrett, good morning. Hey, Joe, good morning. President Trump has consistently defended the war as a national security necessity and said that any economic cost for Americans is both worth it and will fade once the conflict is over. But poll after poll shows this war to be deeply unpopular. And with the midterms looming, the president and top Republicans are now being pressed about how it will all affect their party's grip on control of Washington. This morning, as the strikes strain the ceasefire between the U.S. and Iran, at home, President Trump defending the war, sitting next to his defense secretary.
They are starting to give us the things that they have to give us, and if they do, that's great, and if they won't, then the man on my left is going to finish them off.
The president insisting he's not concerned with the war's political consequences heading into the critical midterm elections, saying Iran's new leaders have misjudged him.
They thought they were going to outweight me. We'll outweigh him. He's got the midterms. I don't care about the midterms.
Polls show the war is broadly unpopular with the American people, with rising energy prices pushing up costs for consumers, threatening Republican control of Congress. Yesterday, the Republican Senate Majority Leader saying those costs will ease once the Strait of Hormuz opens, but adding,
the economic issues tend to be the issues that the American people vote on.
The president argues the Iranian regime is negotiating from a position of weakness.
They're negotiating on fumes.
The talks focusing on reopening the strait and potentially leaving thorny discussions over Iran's nuclear program and enriched uranium for later. The president says he won't accept a short-term agreement that would keep the strait under Iran's control.
The strait will open immediately, but it's got to be perfect. I'm not going to do this. I didn't do this to get a crummy agreement.
And asked about a deal in which Iran and Oman would share control of the waterway, the president threatened Oman, a U.S. ally.
Nobody's going to control it. It's international waters, and Oman will behave just like everybody else, so we'll have to blow them up. They understand that.
Among those thorny, unanswered issues would be what happens to Iran's enriched uranium. That's the nuclear fuel buried by last summer's strikes, which could at least theoretically be recovered and processed into fuel for a nuclear weapon. Well, at the cabinet meeting yesterday, the president rejected the idea that China or Russia could take control of the stockpile, and Iran has said the U.S. can never take it, all of which makes a final resolution to one of the key motivators for this conflict seem very far away. Joe?
All right. Garrett, thank you so much.
Well, we are hearing this morning for the first time from former First Lady Jill Biden in a new interview about her husband's widely panned 2024 debate performance. Well, that debate against Donald Trump ultimately led Joe Biden to end his re-election campaign a few weeks later. In the interview, Mrs. Biden says she was frightened and feared he was having a medical episode. NBC News senior Washington correspondent and News Now anchor Hallie Jackson has the details.
Hey there. The former First Lady says she'd never seen her husband behave like he did on that debate stage. At the time, remember, she projected confidence after aides initially blamed a cold. But we're now learning for the first time that Jill Biden thought it was a much more serious medical issue. This morning, a stunning admission from former First Lady Jill Biden about then-President Joe Biden's 2024 debate against Donald Trump.
I was frightened.
In a clip from her new interview with CBS Sunday Morning, set to air in full this weekend, Jill Biden saying she feared a medical emergency.
I don't know what happened. I mean, as I watched it, I thought, oh my God, he's having a stroke. And it scared me to death.
That's after then-President Biden, in June of that year, took the debate stage in front of millions, delivering faltering answers.
With the COVID, with dealing with everything we have to do with, look, if we finally beat Medicare.
A debate performance widely panned as disastrous.
Until we get the total ban on the total initiative relative to what we're going to do with more Border Patrol and more asylum officers.
President Trump?
I really don't know what he said at the end of that sentence.
Jill Biden later walking the former president off the stage and at the time showing no signs of concern.
Joe, you did such a great job. You answered every question. You knew all the facts.
The debate coming amid questions about the then 81-year-old's fitness for office after a special counsel report that described former President Biden as a, quote, well-meaning elderly man with a poor memory. In July, the former president would end his re-election bid, endorsing then Vice President Kamala Harris. You never saw anything like what happened at the debate night behind closed doors with him?
It was a bad debate. People have bad debates.
And now Jill Biden echoing that sentiment.
I had never, ever seen Joe like that before or since. Never.
Or since.
Yes. Or
You've
since.
never seen him like
never.
that.
No.
And as Jill Biden is making news, so is her husband. The former president is now suing the Justice Department to try to block the release of audio recordings of his interviews with a ghostwriter for his 2017 memoir. A conservative think tank had filed for the release of any information, any recordings that had helped inform that special counsel report that described former President Biden's struggles with his memories. Now, unless this is blocked by a court order, those recordings will be released in just a couple of weeks, middle of June. Back to you.
All right, Hallie, thank you.
Now for the latest on that deadly chemical plant implosion in Washington state. At least 2 people are confirmed dead and 9 others are still missing. Governor Bob Ferguson is calling the blast one of the deadliest industrial accidents in state history. Now investigators are trying to determine what went wrong. NBC News national correspondent Morgan Chesky is in Longview, Washington with the latest. Morgan, good morning.
Now, Joe, a quiet morning here after authorities have sealed off this plant entirely as those recovery efforts only intensified to find those 9 workers that are still missing. This leaked chemical so powerful, firefighters have even reported damage to some of their own gear. And we're now getting an even better look at the scope and scale of the devastation left behind.
Revealing new video this morning capturing the devastation inside a Washington plant. Moments after the implosion of a massive chemical tank.
3401 Industrial Way at Nippon for hazmat burn.
Footage obtained by an independent journalist showing trucks flipped over or even crushed. The leaking tank partially collapsed.
We're bracing ourselves for this being the deadliest industrial tragedy in modern Washington state history.
Authorities confirming at least 2 people are dead and 9 still missing from the implosion at Nippon Industries early Tuesday.
We do not have the ability to state that we have located all 9, nor the ability to state where those 9 were.
The tank was holding nearly 1 million gallons of white liquor, a sodium-based chemical used in paper manufacturing that can cause severe burns if not properly handled. The cause of the disaster still unknown.
We've used the word explosion, we've used the word implosion, I've also used the word failure. Indeed, there was a rupture, a failure, a blast. All of those to us mean the same.
Washington's Department of Labor and Industries has 2 ongoing investigations open at Nippon involving a tank valve and a sinkhole created by a failed drain. They say both are unrelated to Tuesday's incident. We're also learning more about some of the victims, including electrical engineer Rob Wilson, who's still missing. His sister-in-law writing, "Rob is loved by so many, especially his wife Crystal." Wilson worked with Gilbert Bernal, whose beloved children shared his legacy with Today.
I always tribute him for my work ethic because truly my dad is such a hard worker. Our whole lives, you've never seen him slow down.
The family and so many more in this hard-hit community now searching for answers about what went so horribly wrong.
And we know that federal officials with the U.S. Safety and Chemical Board are due back on site today trying to pinpoint the exact cause of that tank rupture. In the meantime, people who live near this area are being encouraged by officials to stay away from drainage areas until more water testing can be done out of concerns of potential contamination. We have also heard from Nippon Industries, who shared a statement saying in part that they're expressing their deepest condolences for those bereaved families. Joe.
All right, Morgan, thank you so much. In Los Angeles, Kenneth Iwamasa, Matthew Perry's personal assistant, will serve more than 3 years in federal prison. He's accused of giving the Friends actor the ketamine that prosecutors say led to his fatal overdose in 2023. In court yesterday, Perry's family said they felt betrayed, accusing Iwamasa of failing to get him help. Iwamasa will also have to pay a $10,000 fine. He is ordered to self-surrender for his sentence by July 17th.
We've got weather for you, the latest on what to expect outside with our Morning News Now forecast.
Al Roker joins us with
Good morning, guys. Well, we are looking at showers and thunderstorms now starting to pop up, especially from the Gulf all the way up into the Central Plains, and that's going to be the pattern for today. This front will be dropping down, locally heavy showers stretching from Kansas to Florida. Isolated flood risk with some of these heavy downpours. Then tomorrow, the focus is really going to be down into the southeast with these showers and thunderstorms, especially down in and around Florida. Florida tomorrow. We're talking from Naples all the way up to Wichita, Kansas, anywhere from 1 to maybe 3 inches of rain. And temperature-wise, we've got what we call kind of this omega block. Low pressure both ends of the country, high pressure in between, and where that upward slope of the jet stream goes, we are looking for record highs with that kind of Greek omega letter right there. Fargo, 94 degrees. You betcha, Marge. 93 in Billings. Seattle going to be 77 degrees. Buffalo, a little chillier. We're looking out west where temperatures are going to stay a little on the cool side. And then tomorrow, New York City, not too bad. Temperatures pretty solid where they are. Chicago's going to see temperatures in the low 80s, mid 80s in Bismarck. And then as we head into next week, temperatures cool off a bit. By Saturday, Boston, you're only at 55. Cleveland, you warm up by Monday to 76. Look at low 80s into St. Louis. And as we move into next week, much cooler weather as we stretch mid-Atlantic into the southwest, but warmer than average from the west coast all the way up into the plains. That's your latest weather. Back to you.
All right. Thank you, Al. There's much more to come on this hour of Morning News Now, including why sunscreen-free tanning is becoming all the rage for some teens online, and the medical experts now sounding the alarm over what's called tanfluencers.
First, after the break, preventative measures, mandatory screenings for Ebola sprouting up at some major airports across the country starting today. Travelers need to know, and the very latest on the spread next. We're back now at the Trump administration's new attempts to contain the quickly growing Ebola crisis. Beginning today, the U.S. federal government is funneling travelers from regions in Central Africa into a few select U.S. airports for mandatory health screenings. NBC News senior national correspondent Stephanie Gosk is at New York's JFK Airport. That's one of those entry points. Steph, good morning.
Hey, Joe, good morning. Those screenings are going to start late tonight. The CDC has put out an urgent call to its employees asking for volunteers to work at these airport screening operations. It's a huge logistical challenge to identify cases of Ebola if they arrive here and then stop the deadly virus from spreading.
This morning, 4 major American airports, now the exclusive entry points for any flights arriving from countries affected by the ongoing Ebola outbreak. Washington Dulles, Hartsfield-Jackson Atlanta, Houston's George Bush Intercontinental, and New York's JFK will screen all passengers who have traveled to South Sudan, Uganda, or the Democratic Republic of Congo. According to the CDC, those travelers will head to a designated screening area, complete a brief questionnaire about their travel history and symptoms, have their temperature checked, and undergo additional health assessments if needed. Non-U.S. citizens returning from those nations, including green card holders, are temporarily banned from entering the country. Public health officials say screenings are crucial to stopping the virus from spreading.
That kind of screening is a really important part of making sure that we don't get people coming in with Ebola who we're not aware of.
The Trump administration also setting up a state-of-the-art facility in Kenya to treat affected Americans in the region, rather than bringing them home to the U.S.
The number one priority of our foreign policy is to protect the American people. We cannot and will not allow any cases of Ebola to enter the United States.
The Ebola outbreak in Central Africa, now the 3rd largest in history. More than 1,000 suspected cases and more than 200 people dead, according to the World Health Organization.
We are in the early stages of the outbreak. It is likely that there are more cases which are not yet detected. So it will take more humanitarian workers.
The CDC emphasizes that there are no cases of Ebola right now in the U.S., and these advanced screenings, as well as the temporary bans, are all preventative in nature, but they are needed to stop the spread from coming here. They emphasize as well that right now the risk to the U.S. public remains overall low, Joe.
All right, Steph, thank you so much. Now, while the U.S. works to contain the Ebola outbreak, there are growing questions among scientists on how to respond to these recent viral outbreaks. The deadly hantavirus outbreak aboard a cruise ship earlier this month, along with the Ebola outbreak, highlight a growing concern for scientists who study what's called the virosphere.
Yeah, that is the term used to describe the incredibly wide diversity of viruses. There could be millions or even trillions of species living around us. And that could lead to complications when treating diseases like Ebola and the hantavirus. For example, our next guest, New York Times columnist Carl Zimmer, summarized it by saying, it would be just as confusing to treat blue whales like fruit bats and Siberian tigers simply on the grounds that they're all mammals.
Let's dive right into this more with Carl Zimmer himself. He is the writer of the New York Times Origins column. He's also a professor adjunct at Yale's Department of Molecular Biophysics and Biochemistry. And he is the author of Airborne, The Hidden History of the Life We Breathe. Good to have you with us, Carl. So, public health officials have dealt with outbreaks of both hantavirus and Ebola before, but in your latest article, you explore how these outbreaks are different. Let's start with hantavirus. How is this time different?
In the United States, we're familiar with a different species of hantavirus. There are actually 38 different species of hantaviruses, and each one has lots of different strains. And so what was happening this month on this ship, the Hantius, is that they were dealing with something called the Andes virus, which is a particular strain of another species that we just don't get in this country. So it's a pretty new experience to deal with.
Let's shift to the Ebola virus outbreak. Nations in Africa have dealt with outbreaks of this virus before with success, but how is this strain different? Do we have a way of really effectively dealing with this at this point?
I don't think people appreciate that this is such a different virus. In fact, it's really not correct to call it an Ebola virus or a strain of Ebola virus. It's called Bundibugyo virus. It's related to the Ebola virus, and it causes a similar disease with hemorrhaging and fevers and so on. But we're dealing with a different species of this kind of virus. And what that means is that the vaccines and the antivirals that were specifically designed for the Ebola virus, which is found in the 1970s, they're not necessarily going to work against Bundibugyo virus. So we're kind of starting from scratch in terms of effective treatments for this virus.
These viruses, are they just in a constant state of evolution? And are we doing enough to study them and actually just get ahead of them to try and deal with future outbreaks?
They are constantly evolving. Viruses are masters of evolution, and they have been evolving for millions of years. And so there are lots of viruses living in animals that we just don't know about. And scientists have been trying to chart these viruses, but they've really barely begun. And the effort is not really getting the support it needs, as demonstrated by what's happening right now. This was a species of virus that we didn't know much about, the Bundibugyo virus, and now it's taking off. It could be one of the biggest outbreaks of this kind of disease ever. And we also know there are related species out there, and probably a lot more that we haven't found yet, of relatives of the Ebola virus.
Is there anything that can be done here, Carl, to try to prepare for what seems like the inevitable emergence of these new species of viruses?
Spillovers are inevitable. Most of the serious diseases we deal with originated in animals and spilled over into us. Science can help us. It can help us in all sorts of ways. It can help us in knowing what species are out there to deal with. It can also help to prepare for spillovers, or perhaps reduce the chances of spillovers and spread. And so this applies not just to discovering viruses, but finding potential treatments that cover lots of different viruses, and also strengthening public health. If we have weak public health worldwide, when viruses spill over, we're all going to suffer the consequences.
Carl Zimmer, good to have you with us. Thanks for joining us this morning.
Fascinating.
Thank you.
Coming up, a lucrative Hollywood-style heist that might make James Bond blush.
Hundreds of pounds of gold bars, millions in foreign currency, allegedly taken from the government by a former CIA officer. That, though, only half the story. We'll explain next. We are back now with a closer look at what's making news in the world of politics this morning, starting with one state lawmaker's effort to push back against the Trump administration's anti-weaponization fund.
NBC News legal affairs reporter Gary Grumbach joins us with this and more. Gary, good morning.
Hey, good morning, Joe and Savannah. Here's what's happening in politics now. A New York lawmaker is suggesting state residents who try to apply for the Trump administration's $1.776 billion anti-weaponization fund should be required to pay 100% state income tax on that money. State Assemblyman Alex Borez, who represents part of Manhattan, says he believes the president should not be using tax dollars to reward those who stormed the Capitol on January 6, 2021. No word yet on if Governor Kathy Hochul would be willing to sign legislation to this effect. In Illinois, the state's House of Representatives passed a bill Wednesday that would set a new standard for regulating AI companies in the state. The bill requires AI companies like OpenAI and Anthropic to create, publish, and regularly update plans to address severe or catastrophic risks from their AI models. Lawmakers here are essentially ordering these companies to formulate a break glass in case of emergency plan. The bill passed the state Senate last week, and Governor J.B. Pritzker has indicated that he will sign legislation into law. And finally, NBC News has learned a former CIA officer has been accused of stealing more than 300 gold bars and millions of dollars in foreign currency. David Rush was arrested last week in Virginia and charged with theft of public funds after an FBI investigation uncovered the high-level CIA officer had requested more than $40 million in gold bars for work purposes and then brought them home. 35 luxury watches were also seized from Rush's house, but the story doesn't stop there. Rush was found to have lied about his educational background and certifications on several government job applications over the course of the past 2 decades. He is now behind prison bars while the case plays out. That's what's happening in politics now. Back to you guys.
Well, that is something.
More on NBCNews.com of Gary and the team's reporting.
Interesting stuff in politics now. Thanks, Gary.
President Trump says he wants the federal government to set the rules of the road on prediction markets, but fears about insider trading and his family's ties to the platforms are motivating some states to push back. NBC News business and data correspondent Brian Chung has that story.
Prediction markets have some pretty powerful partners, from sports leagues to news organizations.
I genuinely felt like I had an edge.
The two biggest platforms, Kalshi and Polymarket, growing from just $810 million bet in July 2024 to now up to almost $24 billion, according to new data out from Pew. The president taking notice.
The whole world, unfortunately, has become somewhat of a casino.
But the former casino owner is clear. If they're going to exist, he'll set, in his words, the rules of the road. He wants the CFTC, or Commodities Futures Trading Commission, to have exclusive authority over prediction markets, just like federal agencies regulate things like the stock market. States disagree, both red and blue, saying it's all more akin to sports betting, like Republican Governor Spencer Cox in Utah.
I've been pretty blunt about how I feel about what these companies are doing, these gambling companies that are pretending to be something else, making billions off of trying to destroy our kids.
At least 16 states are tied up in some sort of legal fight with prediction markets. The biggest battle could play out in Minnesota, where the state AG says the platforms prey on young people and the poor. The state's first-of-its-kind ban is getting pushback from the CFTC, whose chair says it, quote, turns lawful operators and participants in prediction markets into felons overnight. The platforms have long said they have consumer protections in place. Former Democratic Congressman Sean Patrick Maloney, now lobbying on behalf of the prediction market industry, says companies and consumers want a clear set of rules.
What they deserve are good federal regulations, strong consumer protections, and that's what we're fighting for in Washington.
The president's family also has deep ties to the platforms, raising concerns over conflicts of interest. Donald Trump Jr. is a strategic advisor to Kalshi and invested in Polymarket, saying they help democratize information.
I think the prediction markets are very important. It was a needed fix to a broken system.
Still, at least some in Congress want to crack down on insider trading fears.
And we must never allow Congress to turn into a casino.
After federal charges including unlawful use of classified information for personal gain against a Special Forces soldier who allegedly made $409,000 on Polymarket related to the capture of Venezuela's Nicolas Maduro. The soldier has pleaded not guilty, but some argue the prediction market system itself is broken, leading to more inequality. It's not stopping Brandon Feen, an elementary school teacher who says he's profited nearly $200,000 by betting on music. He says bets on Drake to top the charts even helped him win his whole year's salary in just a week and changed his life.
I've been able to pay off my car. I've been able to pay off my student loans. I'm putting myself through grad school with it.
While Brandon can control his bets, the political and legal battles over the platforms still very much up in the air.
Our thanks to Brian Chung for that report.
Coming up, a troubling trend. It might make you want to grab a little extra sunscreen this summer.
Yeah, after the break, why medical experts are sounding the alarm over the dangerous rise of so-called tanfluencers online. How you can keep your skin safe. That is next. Stay with us.
We are back with a troubling trend taken off on social media. Teens tanning without sunscreen being encouraged by what's being called tanfluencers. Well, now doctors are sounding the alarm about the potential health risks. NBC News Chief Consumer Investigative Correspondent Vicki Nguyen has more. Hey, Vicki, good morning.
Hey there, consider this. According to the National Institutes of Health, melanoma, skin cancer, it is now one of the most common cancers in young adults. Surveys show many Gen Zers are completely unaware of the risks of tanning, and more than half say they don't apply sunscreen when they're out in the sun. We spoke with teens and doctors about what's fueling this trend and how tanning can lead to serious health issues much sooner than you expect. Remember the days when everyone baked in the sun?
Now nothing will come between you and the sun because Ultimate Sun Oil has no sunscreens.
In the 80s, teens using everything from oils to foil to get that deep, dark tan. And now, despite decades of research showing the risks, it's back in style.
I do tan pretty frequently.
On social media, teens showing off their tans, misinformation spreading like wildfire.
I noticed when I would wear sunscreen, I would end up getting more burnt than when I wouldn't wear sunscreen at all.
Tan lines now a teen status symbol. Even Beyonce's 14-year-old daughter, Blue Ivy, sporting them at this year's Met Gala. What prompted you to become obsessed with tanning?
I think it's like seeing all like these girls on TikTok, and like it's also kind of like a beauty standard, like, oh, this girl has such nice tan lines. Look at how tan she can get.
For 14-year-old Isabella and her 12-year-old sister Alexa, tanning has become a way of life.
I just like having tan lines, and I don't like being pale because I think that being tan makes me look better.
The girls and their friends even check the UV index, grabbing rays whenever they can, then posting their results. What is your routine when you go out in the sun?
The Saturday before Mother's Day, the UV was like 6, so I was like, oh yeah, I'm not gonna put on any sunscreen, like it's fine. So I went outside and I like put on like a lot of tanning oil, and I was sitting out there for like 6 hours. And I was literally a lobster. I was in so much pain.
Their mom, Erin, says getting them to wear sunscreen is a battle.
This one over here, I was like, are you wearing your sunscreen? Because her face would be like burnt to a crisp. And she's like, no, Mom, I'm wearing it. But she clearly was not putting it on.
In fact, nearly 2/3 of high schoolers report getting sunburned at least once a year. And more than half of Gen Zers believe myths, like getting a base tan protects you from burning.
We're seeing an increase in tanning bed use, which is really heartbreaking. We know that the majority of damage to our skin occurs before the age of 18.
Dr. Dendi Engelman is a board-certified dermatologist. To show the impact tanning can have on teen skin, we had her do UV face scans on Isabella and Alexa, and the results were enlightening.
Close your eyes.
At just 12 years old, Alexa's face already showing signs of significant sun damage. Alexa, what do you think when you see that picture?
I'm really scared.
I think a lot of people are shocked when they get in here because superficially your skin looks beautiful, very smooth and not damaged, and you're young. But over time, you know, this is going to break down collagen. It predisposes you to DNA damage, which then can lead to skin cancer.
Isabella's scan, just as concerning.
This coalescing of hyperpigmentation through here, that could be a skin cancer spot over time because it's already showing signs of aging.
Girls, what do you think when you hear Dr. Dendi explaining what happens when you don't protect your skin?
I'm definitely gonna apply sunscreen a lot more.
I'm like in shock because I knew I would have some, but I didn't think it would be that bad.
I'm really happy that we did this exercise because now when I tell especially Alexa to wear sunscreen, she'll listen to me. I'm excited for us to teach everyone about the importance of wearing sunscreen.
Experts say you should always wear a sunscreen of at least SPF 30 with broad spectrum coverage. Mineral sunscreens work the fastest. They block UV rays as soon as they're applied versus chemical sunscreens, which take a little longer to absorb. And if your teen is obsessed with being tan, experts say get them a self-tanner. There are a lot of good ones available now that give you that bronze look without the risk of sun damage or skin cancer. Back to you.
All right, Vicki, thank you so much. Wow. Well, this is a talker. So let's bring in Dr. Michelle Henry, clinical instructor of dermatology at Weill Cornell Medical Group and founder of Skin and Aesthetic Surgery of Manhattan. Dr. Henry, great to have you with us. I mean, I think this is certainly can stop some parents in their tracks, seeing some of that information in Vicki's piece. These teens saying that they're going to skip sunscreen to get a better tan. We heard some of this there. What is the real risk here? Why is sunscreen so important?
So sunscreen is critically important because sun is the major cause of skin cancer. And skin cancer is the most common type of cancer in the States. 1 in 5 Americans will have a skin cancer by the age of 70. So it's affecting all of us. And we know that sunscreen is critical in preventing that. Not only is it going to help prevent against skin cancer, it also is the critical component of skin aging. So I always tell my patients, if I can't really convince you based on skin cancer, let me appeal to your vanity. It's going to be looking beautiful. It's also going to keep you from getting those skin cancers.
We know the sunscreen aisle maybe can be a little overwhelming. You got SPF 30 and 50 and sprays and mineral and chemical. So what should we actually look for, and how do you know what's best for you?
Yeah, so you really want to look for 3 things. A, SPF 30 and above. I usually recommend 30 for daily use and 50 if you're outside for more than an hour. You want something that's broad spectrum, so something that's going to protect against both UVA and UVB. So SPF actually only tells us about UVB, so broad spectrum is critically important. And then water resistant. So even if you're not in a pool, you're sweating. So it's really important to have something that's going to stand up to the outdoors. I always remind my patients that UV light is a class 1 carcinogen. So that makes it the same as tobacco smoke. So really important to make sure you're using a good sunscreen to protect you.
All right. What are some other ways? I will say, as I've gotten older, I am extremely committed to a very large sun hat when I am outside. What are the other things like that we should keep in mind?
While we love sunscreen, sunscreen isn't perfect. It's not blocking 100% of the sun's rays. So what I always drive home is that you need a sun-safe regimen. So yes, that includes wide-brimmed hats, UV protective clothing, sunglasses. Ocular melanoma is a concern as well.
Oh, wow.
Checking the UV index, but instead staying away when it's lower, when it's higher. So when the UV index is higher, stay indoors. Depending on where you live in the country, stay indoors during those peak hours, which can be anywhere from about 10 to 4 p.m., depending on where you live. So really thinking about a sun-safe regimen and reapplying every 2 hours.
All right, Dr. Henry, thank you so much for being with us. Really good chat. Appreciate it.
Here's some money headlines now. A new federal report shows the number of Americans struggling to afford food is now on the rise.
NBC News business and economy reporter Emily Lorsch has our Money Minute. Hey, Emily.
Hey, guys. Good morning. That's right. The K-shaped economic divide between the rich and the poor is getting wider. That's according to a New York Fed report. The findings reveal that since 2020, there's been a significant rise in the number of families that have difficulty getting enough food, that rely on aid, and have had to use emergency funds to pay for their expenses. The report also found that those who are suffering from food insecurity are also increasingly feeling pessimistic about their financial future. And the FAA told SpaceX to investigate a, quote, mishap during last week's Starship test following an issue with the rocket's booster. According to the agency, no one appears to have been harmed. All of this happening as SpaceX, run by Elon Musk, attempts another launch in the stock market, that is, with what could be the biggest IPO ever. We've reached out to SpaceX and haven't yet heard back. And Patagonia is speaking out for the first time against Patagonia. Yes, you heard that right. Patagonia, a drag queen and climate activist, is being sued over trademark infringement by the outdoor brand. In a letter to the company, Patty is pleading for Patagonia's leaders to drop the suit, saying they have built a strong community and are doing positive work for the environment and related causes. According to the letter, Patty believes there's a solution that would allow for them to keep their name while also protecting the Patagonia trademark. We've reached out to the company and haven't yet heard back. And guys, on social media, a lot of supporters coming out for Patty, asking the company to please drop that suit.
We'll see what happens there. All right,
thank you,
Emily. Thanks so much. With the World Cup right around the corner, U.S. law enforcement is gearing up for the biggest security event of the year. And swooping in to help, a new AI company that describes itself as a real-time public safety and police data management platform. It's operating in a number of cities where World Cup games are taking place. NBC News national law enforcement and intelligence correspondent Tom Winter has a closer look at the technology and why some critics are concerned about how that data is used.
Dashboard cameras, license plate readers, police have never had so much data at their fingertips. But how do they sift through it all to solve or stop crime? It is all starting to remind you of the Minority Report.
Female killers, male, white, 40s. Set up a perimeter and tell them we're on risk.
You're not alone.
A lot of this data is being collected whether or not the individual is going to be involved in a crime.
It's amazing to see what's possible once that infrastructure is in place.
The debate raising fresh questions about where the line of privacy protections really is in the world of AI and when it might be offsides. As the country gears up for the World Cup, one of the largest security operations of the year, coast to coast. Nick Noon says his AI company, Peregrine, is now operating in 400 U.S. cities, 11 of which will be hosting World Cup events this summer.
Working with those responders to bring together information to say, this individual that might be entering the stadium has a history of violence related to a gun. That's the difference between having a secure event or a crisis.
But it's not just the World Cup. Noon says his platform never goes to sleep.
Police and fire departments are dealing with data that's streaming into their organizations 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. The first thing to focus on for us is not AI, but how to take otherwise incompatible data and connect it together.
What types of data then are we talking about?
Reports that come from police departments, evidence such as body camera, video, case information, 911 dispatch calls.
It's part of a technological revolution they hope becomes as integrated with the beat cop as the uniform and badge. Police say in Virginia, a photo of a man who abducted a little girl led them to identify him in 13 minutes because of the tech, which led to an arrest. In Arizona, shooting solved in minutes instead of days or weeks. And police say in Georgia, they're tracking drug overdoses to find where dealers are operating to try and save lives. Noon's co-founder, Ben Rudolph, says AI is making tech like this affordable to police departments, big and small.
We've seen a lot of organizations that have undergone massive technology changes in one system and another system, and a single place where they can get back to the work that actually matters. It's cool to see.
Peregrine isn't the only tech company hoping to harness AI to supercharge policing. The question privacy advocates have, will they cause more harm than good?
Data is very leaky.
Beryl Lipton tracks police tech for the Electronic Frontier Foundation.
It is very difficult to ensure that data collected in one place is not going to be accessed inappropriately or shared far beyond where we expect that data to go.
And with cameras everywhere from the streets to stadiums to theme parks, others are worried about tech getting things wrong. The ACLU tracked more than a dozen cases of wrongful arrests after police relied on facial recognition that incorrectly identified suspects. NBC News covered one case.
A Tennessee grandmother demanding justice after an AI tool falsely linked her to bank fraud.
Peregrine not involved in that case, and Noon says he's not in the business of mass surveillance. In many ways, that's already happening. He believes Peregrine can help law enforcement sort through it all and keep it secure.
Peregrine is not a surveillance company. They look to companies like Peregrine to say, we need to secure that data.
How could this be used against me in a nefarious way? It's somebody who's got a problem with my politics. It's somebody who's got a problem with me personally. How do you handle that challenge?
If those systems are set up properly, then the information that's already being collected can be locked down to ensure that they're being utilized fairly, securely, transparently, and by the appropriate people.
Working to stay ahead of the criminals while not sweeping up ordinary citizens in the process.
Our thanks to Tom Winter for that report. Well, both the advocates and companies Tom spoke with said it's important for local policymakers to ask very clear questions about how the data is being used and where they can expect that data to go once local law enforcement has done the job. Well, coming up, it's a yap-happy new trend that's lending a more confident voice to many on social media. When we come back, Joe's going to show us why the humble regional American accent, whether that's New England, New York, Mississippi, Minnesota, it's now making a whole lot of noise online. That's next on Morning News Now.
Finally this hour, perhaps you're packing a car in New England, or you're from my home state of Minnesota, where some folks might say a boot instead of about. When I was growing up, maybe I felt a slight sliver of shame over my accent, but as I found out for many on social media, it's now becoming a source of pride.
The car has since been recovered, but the suspect remains at large.
When Boston Globe reporter Emily Sweeney posted a video about a robbery,
a masked intruder broke into an $18 million waterfront mansion.
She stole the internet, especially when she said this.
The only person home at the time, a caretaker.
Caretaker.
I was not prepared for all the comments about how I spoke during the video. I think people are maybe nostalgic for regional accents.
The clip generated more than 3 million views across TikTok and Instagram. And she's not the only one going viral, whether sharing recipes with a thick New York accent.
And my grandmother, pasta bazia, we're going to do it, pasta with peas.
Or a charming Louisiana drawl.
But in South Louisiana, we call that coffee milk.
Well, recent research indicates some accents are fading across parts of the South.
Then there was a tsunami.
They seem to be seeing a resurgence on screen.
Just checked on Baby Jane Dowd. Looking good. Taking formula well.
Harkening back to the days of Fargo, don't you know?
They said they were going to the Twin Cities.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah. Yeah, is that useful to you?
Oh, you betcha, yeah.
And as the Washington Post reports, many social media personalities are now embracing their distinctive dialects.
You need to retch around and wrench it out before you put water in it.
Experts say the recent fascination online is a sign that younger generations are celebrating accents in a positive way.
I think anytime we recognize that accents are not only dividing us because they may make us sound different, but uniting us in that we all think of them in these beautiful, lovely ways.
Brooklyn's tough, but the Bronx is in the lungs.
A few years ago, SNL alum Fred Armisen famously tackled every North American accent.
Wisconsin's more Chicago than Chicago, Wisconsin.
For Emily Sweeney, one accent is enough, with her viral fame earning her a wicked new job title, social video journalist.
How do you feel about that new opportunity?
This whole thing has been a whirlwind, and, I'm just glad that, there's an audience who's receptive.
All right, so as everyone knows, I'm from Minnesota, but growing up, when I went to school in Illinois, people always said to me, other students said, you don't really seem to have a Minnesota accent. And I was like, okay. And then I was anchoring a radio broadcast, and I said this word, which you would say...
I know how you say this. Agriculture.
Agriculture. The Department of Agriculture is what I said.
That's wrong.
And everyone's jaw dropped. Big, flag, dragon,
Every
agriculture.
now and then
so that's
we hit a word here where I'm like, oh.
There it is.
There's the accent.
There's the Minnesota accent every now and then. So there you go.
Funny.
Hopefully you enjoyed that
was
as
fun.
well.
Yes, great story.
That is going to do it for this hour of Morning News Now.
Stay with us, though. The news continues right now.
We thank you for watching, and remember, stay updated on breaking news and top stories on the NBC News app or watch live on our YouTube channel.